So the first story we have is an update on what's happening with Mike Lindell. This story was crazy. It broke last night. You know, we're sitting here trying to do this show. I'm trying to talk about Ariel because the new movie, she's black. And there's a big controversy. And then all of a sudden, Luke is like, breaking news. We got to check it out. Mike Lindell had his phone seized by the FBI. So we have some updates. Post Millennial reports the search warrant shows Mike Lindell phone seized in identity theft, damage of protected computer investigation. The search warrant for the phone seizure reveals that it was taken over an identity theft and damage. Okay, they're just repeating themselves. They say, we know this. Documents posted by Lindell reveal the purported reasoning. With a page titled, Items to be Seized, reading that the physical cellular telephone assigned number redacted. Lindell's cell phone and all records and information on the Lindell cell phone that constitutes fruits, evidence, or instrumentalities of identity theft, as well as intentional damage to a protected computer, and or a conspiracy to commit identity theft and or to cause intentional damage to a protected computer. That's just crazy. I was talking to a guy earlier today, regular guy, just a regular guy, and he said, how are they getting away with this? How did they go after 40 subpoenas targeting Trump allies? And I just want to add to that. You'd think, we're going on year 7 of hoaxes targeting Trump and his allies. How does this keep happening? Why hasn't it stopped? It seems to be getting worse. But we're lucky enough to have you, Devin, and Derek, seemingly the experts on this, on what's going on. So you tell me, man, how do they keep doing this? How are they getting away with it?
You know what's interesting about Lindell especially is that he's a brilliant guy. I don't know if he's ever been on your show before, but he's absolutely brilliant. He's a brilliant marketer and passionate guy. And he's the frickin' My Pillow guy. Mm-hmm. He's funny. Everybody knows who he is because he's been on TV for so long. But I will tell you that this actually really happened. So I don't want people thinking that I'm an FBI informant. But I was talking to him just in the last, about a week ago. And I was laughing because I was actually just trying to get some pointers on True Social because we're beginning advertising. And I asked him, because he always wants to talk about election issues, which is fine. He's very passionate about it. And we were talking about the January 6th Commission and, how, I had said, look, what I've said from the very beginning of that is that, rioting's not okay, breaking in the Capitol's not okay, but where's the 14,000 hours of videotape? And he tells me, that I've never gotten, this is what Mike Lindell told me just a week ago, and I'm paraphrasing, but I've never been contacted by anyone for any of this, for all the stuff that he said out there. So, and then he shouldn't have went to that Hardee's, I guess.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Hardee's is a bad place to go for that.
Well, Tim, trying to answer your question here, the first thing I thought about was in 2017 on MSNBC, Chuck Schumer went on national television and said that the intelligence agencies have, quote, 6 waves from Sunday to get back at you. And he was hinting at the intelligence agencies doing a revenge plot against Donald Trump. Do you think there's some merit to this, especially from your information from the inside, that this is the intelligence agencies hitting back against Trump with the battles that were happening within the White House?
Well, they were already weaponized before
Absolutely.
that. So when Schumer says that, remember, so he probably already knows because it was the Democratic Party Clinton campaign that paid for this whole operation that probably started in 2015. So Schumer probably already knows when he makes that very infamous statement that, of course, is seen by 30-40% of the country, but the rest of the country doesn't know it exists.
Also, what are the things that the FBI has chosen not to do? They're looking at identity theft and putting resources into that when they didn't touch the Hunter Biden laptop. They didn't look at the thousands of assaults on federal officers in Portland and other places during 2020. They're pulled back from investigating Chinese financial crimes and ripping off billions of dollars from American individual investors. One could go on.
The Maxwell client list? I could go on too. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just needed to interrupt you. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm only here because I know that there's one person at this table that's been to Epstein Island.
That's correct.
I have to explain myself very carefully. I didn't go as... Again, I'm tired of even explaining it.
You didn't think about it, did you? So I love introducing Luke to people, and I'm like, he's been to Epstein Island.
And I'm like,
and then everyone just gives him this look like...
side-eyed, like, look at this.
What was it like? What was it like?
Creepy. Extremely creepy. Very. I was sweating, running around, trying to videotape as much as I could. Very bad juju. Very
Luke,
bad energy.
Just to clarify, stormed the island after
Yes.
the fact to
Afterwards,
film and
yeah.
document what was there. He was not an invited guest.
Yes. Thank
An
you.
amphibious assault.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Ran out of there. Got chased out.
But you got to see the look on people's faces when I'm like, "Oh, Luke's been to Epstein Island."
It
Just
happens
like
at
their
parties,
face goes blank.
and I don't even. The first time you caught me, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then people started looking at me. Anyway.
So you're a Democrat. All the Democrats visited there.
Not always. I mean, there were. I mean, if you look at a lot of the people, it's bipartisan when it comes to the larger
really?
trafficking and extortion operation that was pretty much run by Epstein. A lot of Republicans, a lot of Democrats. I mean, a lot of people intricately involved in our current political system. Even Trump appointees that had to resign because of them giving the sweetheart deal to, of course, Epstein and letting him get away for horrible crimes. And the FBI also, most notably, was interviewing victims of his all the way in the 90s, and the FBI chose to ignore the victims, not help the victims that were coming forward, as police officers, federal agents, prosecutors were all looking away and essentially aiding and abetting into what was hurting children in unspeakable ways that we can't even describe here on this broadcast.
So we have a pattern here.
Absolutely.
If you look at the gymnastic investigation that went nowhere too.
Exactly. And the client list still wasn't released, and Ghislaine Maxwell went down for a crime where she had no clients, which is absolutely mind-boggling. But
She was just like trafficking kids into like a boat and then kicking it out into the water and
Black
just walking
hole,
away.
yeah.
It was like just
But we could talk about
exile.
intelligence agency corruption all day. I think it's interesting to see what's happening from the inside, especially from the intelligence committees. That's why I asked you that question, how this is playing out, what's happening here. What do you think is the motive here? Is it legitimately investigating a crime, or do you think this is something bigger, something more of a conspiracy?
Yeah, I don't know how we can get into this right now. Maybe talk about it later too. But we thought, at least when we unraveled the Russia hoax at the very beginning, so we're talking 2017 and 18. We thought at that point that we had been able to effectively kind of solder the wounds, stop the bleeding. The Mueller nonsense with his top lawyer,
Andrew
Wiseman. We thought, okay, we stopped all that. Barr came in, Durham came in, and I'm sure we'll get to the Durham investigation at some point too. But we thought at least the Lovebirds were gone, Strzok, Page, all of that.
Yeah.
And Ray was at least saying the right things, that there'll be some healing period. We're trying to do everything right. He always said the right things. But clearly what has happened is that there has been a Gestapo-like get Trump crew that's been created within the National Security Division of the Department of Justice and the FBI. And look, we kind of know that now because if you were involved in the Russia hoax, the pre-planning and the implementation in 15 and 16, you now got a promotion and you're at the top levels of the Department of Justice right now. So that really happened. And then, this whole Tibu guy that came out that was escorted out a couple weeks ago, FBI guy, what they're doing is they're running it with the National Security Division. And this is important for the audience to know. There's a division in there called counterintelligence. And the way the rules and the regs work is within counterintelligence, they're able to wall everybody off within the FBI and DOJ. Say, counterintelligence investigation, can't talk about it. And that's how they effectively hid a lot of this from us, which we'll probably get into this later. But that's why I made the joke at the outset. This is why they brought Danchenko, who was the fake, phony Russian source for the dossier. It's why the FBI brought him in, was to hide him from Congress, hide him from our investigation.
You know what your biggest challenge is? There is so much to understand, to unravel everything that's happening, that the average person can't absorb it in a few minutes.
Right. That's why I came on the show, because it's like 2 hours plus. So.
2 hours, so we'll just get a list of names. We'll go through it. We'll give everyone's bio.
Have you ever seen those crazy maps, like the charts?
I was just going to say, let's get the bulletin board out there and the pins right now.
Epoch Times has like a full-blown poster of this thing with all the players.
Wow. The crime web with the red yarn or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
it's
actually quite good.
And it's important to understand, it's not just the FBI here, as you mentioned, but the FBI also influencing the corporate media and large institutions like Wikipedia and the Washington Post that were playing defense for the intelligence agencies, regurgitating everything they were saying, criticizing, attacking you for calling out the clear lies, clearing out, and then also journalists. I was listed on a Washington Post story as fake Russian news because I didn't believe, I wanted to see evidence of this Russian collusion. I said, okay, if you think that there was Russian collusion, let's present us with some evidence, but we can't believe the intelligence agencies since, of course, they lie routinely to the American people. They lied about WMDs, they lied about so many different things that I could mention here, Iran-Contra, we could keep going on and on and on. And I was like, there's no reason to believe these guys. Because of that, I was put on a list, I was ostracized, and I was depersoned from Wikipedia for even asking questions.
Well, now what they've become very good at is they just control the whole process. So, not too far away from here, in the Washington D.C. Beltway, it's become bigger and bigger and bigger. And Colonel Harvey can tell you that that's been probably the biggest downfall. We created this new superstructure after 9/11. We brought a lot more bureaucracy in, a lot more bureaucrats, and we're so much less focused on actually, finding and taking care of hard targets that are definitely a danger to the United States. And everything can now be manipulated. Because remember, the quick answer for everything now is, we're going to have a DNI do a report. Well, of course, if it's a report that supports the Democrats or the left, it always comes out exactly the way that they want it to come out. And of course, if it's a report that actually goes after the Democrats for their whatever it may be, like for the Russia hoax, for example, it took the Inspector General 2 years to come out with this. Then it took Durham to be appointed, and now Durham's had 2 indictments, and now we're still waiting.
Yeah, there was a New York Times article about that today saying that the Durham report is not going to lead to anything substantial. Do you think the New York Times perspective on it is correct, or would you question that new article that just came out? I don't know if you're aware of the article.
Well, I don't read fake news. Yeah. And so I actually don't even push on the websites, except if they attack me, then I'll evaluate it and see what it is. But look, I've actually, and Colonel Harvey maybe has a different opinion than me, but I've actually been very supportive of the Durham investigation because it's the only investigation that I've seen in my entire 2 decades that I spent in Washington with 0 leaks. And that gives me quite a bit of confidence, and he's got to a lot of information that we didn't even get to.
One of the things, the New York Times gets its information from FBI sources. The FBI uses the New York Times, Washington Post. They put a story out there, and then they use that story in the New York Times to start an investigation.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
And it goes like that. And there's that relationship.
You guys talk about it all the time on this show. You guys talk about narrative building.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's all it is. It's
That's
narrative
the game,
building.
man. I'm interested to see what happens with the Durham investigation, but I got to be honest, it's taken so long. We haven't seen a whole lot that I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith, but I wonder if maybe the reason we're seeing them go so heavily now after Trump allies, these 40 subpoenas, could it be because they're worried they're running out of time?
Well, look, if you want to, let's talk about the Mar-a-Lago raid, because all roads, you can keep it simple. All roads basically lead back to Russiagate. I mean, pretty much all roads lead to Russiagate, right? Even the impeachment hoax on Ukraine was still Russiagate, same players. So if you've had Kash Patel on this show before, so the one thing that we learned throughout our investigation is that the FBI, DOJ, they love to use fake news to go into their affidavits, into their warrants. Well, the first thing I noticed when I read that affidavit, and the Inspector General has said you shouldn't do it, and then when they released the warrant and the affidavit, there was 2 stories. Essentially, that was all that was. The only thing unredacted were 2 news stories. Now, I've never seen FBI, DOJ in all my time ever use a Breitbart story, right? Because they consider Breitbart to be fake news. But for the first time in my life, they used Breitbart, right? And in it was Kash Patel. And Kash Patel, they completely take what he says out of context. What he says is that he's seen the intelligence reports relating to the Russia hoax that were declassified and we've never seen. They basically misconstrue that. We don't see everything below it. But what Kash is clearly talking about there is he's talking about the documents that I've seen, Derek's seen, we've all seen, We didn't see him at Mar-a-Lago. We saw him when we were in Congress, or we were at the
CIA.
or at the White House. We saw all those documents. They're supposed to be declassified. They're using that out of context. They're using to play these games. And the other story, of course, was a local news agency that saw some white vans pull into Mar-a-Lago.
Saw that, yeah.
Yeah. Moving boxes or something.
Yes.
Back to Durham real quick, Tim. You know, I worry that Durham is going after people like Deschenko and Kleinsmith for false document issues, but he's not going to go after the root of the problem, which is in the FBI itself.
The Trump sleeper cell. Or maybe not.
It's
so
the
much
National
sleeper.
Security Division.
Yeah.
And their enablers over at the DOJ.
How worried should we be? I mean, are we going to see Republicans win in November and then maybe do something about this? Or are they not going to be able to do anything until the executive branch changes?
Look, I think for the first time that I've seen, people are really pissed off out there. I mean, just, if I travel across the country and you see it, I mean, people are really, really concerned, and they should be. I mean, I would have never, I can't say that it shocked me that they raided Mar-a-Lago, but man, this is really Banana Republic time.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.